Iran War Live. U.S. strikes. Kuwait airport attack. Gulf turmoil spreading. That is not a headline I wrote. That is the actual live headline running on Al Jazeera today, June 3rd, 2026. Here is what happened in the last 24 hours. The United States military struck Iran's Qeshm Island in the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow chokepoint that controls 20% of the world's oil supply. Iran fired back within hours. Ballistic missiles and drones rained down on Kuwait and Bahrain, both countries that host tens of thousands of American troops. One of those missiles didn't hit a military base. It hit Kuwait International Airport, a civilian airport. A terminal is on fire. One person is dead. More than 60 people are wounded. Flights are canceled. The airspace is shut. And Kuwait's government, in an official statement, called these attacks sinful and repeated. And somewhere in the middle of all this, Donald Trump went on television and called the breakdown of ceasefire talks a little glitch that he turned around very quickly. A missile hit a civilian airport. 60 people are bleeding, and the leader of the free world used the word glitch. Welcome to day 96 of a war most people don't even know is happening. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will never look at the news the same way again. To understand why a civilian airport in Kuwait is burning today, you need to understand what happened on February 28, 2026, the night that changed everything. The United States and Israel launched simultaneous joint airstrikes on Iran. The operation was called Roaring Lion. What happened during those strikes crossed a line that hadn't been crossed in decades of Middle East conflict. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, the man who had ruled Iran with absolute authority for over 3 decades, was killed. In a single night, gone. Now think about what that means from Iran's perspective. Your supreme leader is dead. Your nuclear infrastructure is bombed. The 2 most powerful military forces in the region just walked through your front door. Iran did exactly what any government would do in that situation. It retaliated, massively. Iran launched Operation True Promise 4. The target list was not subtle. It was every country in the Gulf hosting American military forces. Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, the UAE, all hit simultaneously. In that first wave, Iran fired 97 ballistic missiles and 283 drones in a single night. That is not a response. That is a message sent in fire. America responded. Iran responded to the response. And the loop has not stopped. 96 days later, the missiles are still flying. Except now, they're hitting civilian airports. Here is the part of this war that has been consistently underreported. American soldiers died. On February 28th, 6 U.S. soldiers were killed in Kuwait. 77 were wounded. 38 required hospitalization. At Camp Buehring, a major U.S. garrison in northeastern Kuwait, Iran didn't just lob missiles from a distance. Investigations that came out in late April 2026 revealed that an Iranian F-5 fighter jet physically penetrated the multi-layered American air defense network and completed a bombing run inside the base. An enemy aircraft flew through American defenses and dropped bombs on American soldiers. That fact received almost no coverage outside of specialist military publications. But it is one of the most significant battlefield events of this entire war. Kuwait International Airport was not attacked once. It has been attacked repeatedly since the war began. March brought drone strikes on fuel storage. April brought more drones, more fires. Each attack slightly worse than the last. Each time Iran pushed a little further to see how much it could get away with. Today, June 3rd, a missile hit a terminal directly. International headlines confirm the damage, the death, the injuries, the closure. Iran's IRGC didn't apologize. They issued a statement saying the strikes on Kuwait should serve as a lesson for the United States. They bombed a civilian airport and called it a lesson. The sequence of events in the last 48 hours is important to understand in order. because each action triggered the next, and together, they show exactly how close to the edge this situation is. On June 2nd, the United States conducted strikes on Qeshm Island in the Strait of Hormuz. CENTCOM described it as a targeted hit on an Iranian military ground control station. No U.S. personnel were injured. Clean, precise, surgical. That was the framing. Iran's response was neither clean nor surgical. The IRGC launched a coordinated wave of missiles and drones at Kuwait and Bahrain. Sirens went off across Bahrain in the early hours of the morning. The Interior Ministry there went on broadcast telling citizens to remain calm and seek shelter immediately. In Kuwait, the army was intercepting incoming projectiles while simultaneously trying to manage what was already hitting the airport. Multiple missiles were shot down. Some broke apart in flight, but one reached the terminal. CENTCOM released a statement saying Iranian attacks had been successfully defeated across the Gulf. In the same statement, they confirmed they had shot down additional Iranian drones that were targeting civilian maritime vessels in international waters. That second detail matters. Iran was not just targeting military bases. Iran was targeting ships carrying cargo through the Gulf. That is economic warfare on top of military warfare. Iran's state broadcaster IRIB posted video on social media claiming American bases in Kuwait had been destroyed, showing what appeared to be missiles hitting structures and fires burning. CENTCOM rejected those claims, but the video was already everywhere. The information war was running parallel to the physical one. And while all of this was happening, Iran's negotiators reportedly stopped communicating with ceasefire mediators entirely. The people who were supposed to be ending this war went silent precisely as the missiles started flying again. This is the part of the story that deserves its own video, because the gap between what is being said and what is actually happening is extraordinary. 12 days ago, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social that a peace deal with Iran was largely negotiated. He said details would be announced shortly. Markets responded. Journalists wrote cautious headlines about the prospect of peace. People around the world who had been watching this war with dread allowed themselves a moment of relief. 48 hours later, the U.S. military announced new strikes on Iran. Trump then told ABC News that a deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz was reachable over the next week. He was confident, optimistic, deal-maker-in-chief. Then Iran suspended negotiations. Then the Kuwait airport was hit. Then Iran called it a lesson. Then Trump got in front of cameras and said, referring to the complete collapse of ceasefire talks triggered by Israel's offensive in Lebanon, "There was a little glitch today, but I turned that one around very quickly." There is a word for the distance between those two realities. You can choose your own. But what is not debatable is this. A man who has declared a peace deal largely negotiated for 12 consecutive days has presided over an escalating exchange of strikes that culminated in a civilian airport being hit on day 12. Those two things cannot both be true at once. Tucker Carlson, once the loudest media voice in Trump's corner, the man who interviewed him during the campaign and whose endorsement reached tens of millions of conservative Americans, went on his own podcast in April and said he had misled his audience into trusting Trump. He called it a source of personal torment. He apologized. When the most loyal amplifier of your message publicly breaks from you over a war you started, that is not a footnote. That is a signal. Here is something that does not show up in the missile footage, but is just as real. The Strait of Hormuz has been effectively closed since late February. That single waterway carries approximately 20% of the world's oil supply. It has been closed for over 3 months. The OECD, which monitors economic health for the world's wealthiest nations, issued a formal warning. The global economy entered 2026 with strong momentum. That momentum has now significantly weakened. The longer the disruptions last, the larger the economic and social costs. If the Hormuz disruption continues, Wheat prices globally could rise by 13%. Bangladesh raised electricity prices by 16% this week alone, directly because of disrupted energy imports caused by this conflict. A country of 170 million people, most of them not watching the news about Kuwait airports, felt this war in their electricity bills. Oil prices extended gains this week as peace talks failed. Stock markets are holding on AI-related demand, but shaking everywhere else. Supply chains that run through the Gulf are rerouting or stalling. This war is not contained to the Middle East. It never was. It is running through the price of everything you buy, every bill you pay, every flight you book. The question that no anchor on mainstream television is asking directly is this: if there is a ceasefire, why is the fire not ceasing? If a peace deal is largely negotiated, why are the casualty counts still rising? If the glitch is fixed, why is the airport still closed? The answer, if you read the pattern of the last 96 days carefully, is that both sides are doing something that is simultaneously rational and catastrophic. They are negotiating and fighting at the same time, using military strikes as bargaining leverage. Every bomb is a demand. Every interception is a counteroffer. The war is not the failure of diplomacy. The war has become the diplomacy, conducted in missiles instead of memos. What that means is this conflict does not end on any particular day. It ends when one side's cost becomes politically unbearable, or when both sides find the precise arrangement of guarantees and concessions that neither has been willing to put on the table yet. Iran will not give up its leverage over the Strait of Hormuz until it gets something significant in return. Sanctions relief, security guarantees, something. America will not give Iran that until Iran stops the attacks. Iran will not stop the attacks until it gets that. That circle has been spinning for 96 days and will keep spinning until something breaks it. In the meantime, airports burn, soldiers bleed, prices rise, and someone calls it a glitch. Here is where we actually are today. Not where the press briefings say we are, where we actually are. Day 96 of an active declared war. Kuwait's civilian international airport hit by Iranian missiles this morning. 1 person dead, more than 60 wounded, airport shut indefinitely. Iran calling it a lesson. America saying it successfully defeated the attacks, while in the same breath confirming more drones were launched and shot down. Ceasefire negotiators silent. Oil supply choked. Global wheat prices rising. Bangladesh raising electricity prices. Trump saying peace is close. Iran saying stronger strikes are coming. That is the complete picture. If this gave you clarity that the headlines didn't, share it. Not for any other reason, except that the people around you are already living with the consequences of this war and deserve to understand why. I'll update this as it develops. Subscribe so you don't miss it.